Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Schuster,
And I'm Gary Mason. And we are Aftermath of Murder.
the series.
Yeah.
So, we thought we'd today discuss a little bit about what it was like to make this true crime podcast.
Yeah. And so we've been at this for doing research for about a year and a half, right?
Right.
And anybody who thinks you just sit down and start talking, um, you should think differently because it's just not true. The truth of the matter is, we did an awful lot of research,
Piles of research.
piles of research.
Yeah.
We really just wanted to make sure that we had all the facts before we started recording. So we ordered all of the police reports.
And remember, this has been going on. This event happened, this murder happened over 20 years ago, about 22 years ago. So, there was a few more pages of this to review. And it takes a little while to read through all this. The records from the detectives, from other people involved, like the coroner and so forth.
Right. And it was pretty cool that, we get to read the actual words from what these people said as they were being interrogated. And again, we wanted to be very thorough. So we read through all these police reports.
And that wasn't all. We we found a few more.
Yeah, before all was said and done, we have 3,500 pages of police reports that we reviewed, and that doesn't even count the court transcripts or the court videos.
Right. We reviewed the court videos of the second trial, and we'll go into that in the podcast why there was another trial. So that was hours of reports that we viewed, and we're going to make that available during the podcast so you can actually hear some of the real live testimony of these people.
And when Mike says we, he means Mike, because Mike really watched most of the videos while I was busy trying to find the people that were involved.
Yeah.
So, you really got to become a private investigator.
He did an amazing job tracking down these people because this happened 20 years ago, over 20 years ago.
Right.
Some of these people are no longer with the police department.
It was not easy, but we did have an opportunity to speak to the detectives. We talked to the accomplice, and we even communicated back and forth with the perpetrator.
Yeah, tell us how you did that.
Well, believe it or not, they give them a tablet, an iPad. It's probably not Apple, but a tablet, and you send what amounts to a text message to them. But before that, you have to go through a background check, you have to pay, and then you have to pay for stamps every time you send a message.
In addition to that, we also researched newspapers and TV news reports and so forth. There's a lot of material to cover.
There was, and then on top of that, we took a trip. So we took a trip out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and Phoenix, Arizona. And we went to Salt Lake City because that is where the victim grew up, and we were able to talk to some of his friends and his mom. So we did get to talk to his mom and recorded some of our conversation with her.
In Phoenix is where the crime occurred, and we were able to visit the location of the crime where these people were living at the time. And along with some interviews, we got a lot of film of the area and where things had occurred.
Right. Which was really exciting because we actually drove out to the prison where this guy is housed. And interesting story, we were in our little rental car
Mm-hmm.
driving around outside the fence of this prison, which is in the middle of a field. And
In the middle of the desert, actually.
in the middle of the desert. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, we attracted the attention of some of the security guards.
Yeah. Who was following, as we were driving around, he was driving around with us. So we finally decided, let's stop. We'll go talk to this gentleman and find out if he's comfortable with us filming. It turns out he wasn't comfortable with us filming, and he said that if you tried to film, he'd call the police. So what do you think Gary did?
I called the police and I said, "Hey, this is what we want to do. We just want to film the, outside the fence, and we'd like to take some drone footage." And he said, "No way. We are not allowed to do that on our property." He said, "But we don't have any control over what happens across the street." So, of course, we went across the street.
Right, right. And but you, when he finally gave you that permission, basically, you said you asked for the police officer's name.
Right, yes. He said, "Yeah, you can go across the street and film." I said, "Yeah, and what's your name?" And he just laughed at me. He said, "No way. He's not giving us his name, so we can't attribute it to him." But we did manage to fly the drone across the street and get some really cool footage of the prison overall from up real high. It was pretty neat.
And we did not end up in the prison ourselves, so that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that was a plus.
We also, we also visited the location of the murder site, which happens to be on an Indian reservation site. And again, we ran into a few problems filming there.
Well, as we pulled in to the reservation, it's basically out in the middle of nowhere, and it's just a little hole in the fence off the road. So we drove through the fence, which probably is the fence they drove through when they did the murder.
Well, I think it's the only entrance onto that area.
It was the only entrance, right?
Yeah.
But just inside there, there's a sign that says, "No trespassing. You're going to be arrested, and they're going to take your car away." And
Yeah.
so, being the good
Well, it was a rental.
citizens-
We could,
It was a rental. That is true.
so, but anyway,
But yeah, being the good citizens we are, we called the tribal council and asked for permission to be on the reservation and to take some drone footage and some other footage of the area. We explained what we were doing. And
Right.
they said,
and they said, no, you can't do it. You just can't go on our property and take these pictures, but you can file for permission. And we said, oh, okay. We're here for 2 days. How long will this take? They said it'll be about 2 months. And so we did question and ask them, what's the chances of this happening and giving us permission? And they said,
almost zero.
so,
There was no way they were going to give us permission to film this. So, we didn't, or
kind of.
maybe we did. I don't know.
Well, you'll see as
Yeah.
you see the pictures. But
Yeah.
So
But very interesting, the roadblocks that were put in our way to be able to do the things we wanted to do. But
it's true. Yeah. But one of the roadblocks that we totally blew away was, when you're out there working all day in the desert, you got to have something to eat. And we hit this seafood place that had an amazing menu, including bag o' shrimp,
bag o' shrimp, yes.
which my friend
Yeah. I got
partaked.
5 pounds of shrimp, 2 lobster tails, 4 potatoes, all in a plastic bag. Yeah. It was good.
There was some gravy in there too, or something.
Well, there was like spices and everything.
Yeah.
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 It was good. I didn't eat it all.
Yeah. What percentage do you think you got down?
Probably 80%.
So 4 pounds. But anyway,
Yeah.
he's been okay since. He's all right.
Yeah. I'm okay now. They had to roll me out to the car, but yeah.
So the vision of our podcast, which is entitled in this season's podcast, is entitled Closure. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the idea here is to present to you the case as it was, factual, of course, and we're looking for the idea of closure. And what does it mean to people? How do you achieve it? Is it achievable? Who needs to have closure? Who are the real victims? How many victims are there? And what we're finding is that while the murdered person is clearly the victim, so are his family, the perpetrator's family. There is this ever widening group of victims, which in my mind includes the police officers who have to investigate these sort of things.
Right. So we're excited to be able to present this to you. This series is going to probably have 8 episodes, and we're excited to have this for your viewing pleasure,
Right.
both as a podcast and as a webcast.
Right. So I'm Gary Mason,
I'm Mike Schuster,
and we're Aftermath of Murder,
the series. Don't forget that.
the series. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.